Hey girl, hey. Yeah. Woo, woo. Hey girl, hey. Woo, let's go. Hey girl, hey. Yeah. Woo, woo. Hey girl, hey. Woo, let's go.
Hey girl, hey.
Elly, do you know every time I say Uptown with Elly Brown, it makes me think about Uptown Funk, and then I just go into that every single time. It's like it never fails.
Well, that's a good thing.
I can't even separate it. So Uptown with Elly Brown, I am so excited that you're here.
Thank you.
So I know how amazing you are and how fabulous you are, and that you're like the most amazing lifestyle blogger ever. And you have like 100 million followers, and you have an amazing husband and beautiful boys. But tell everybody how you got started, how you got to be Uptown Elly Brown that we know today. So give us a little intro about you.
Oh, man. So Uptown with Elly Brown has been 5 years in the making.
Oh.
It's been a lot of grit, blood, sweat, and tears. But, you know, I don't think I even had Jaden, my oldest, at the time. But at the time, blogs were big-ish, were, you know, on the uptrend. Mm-hmm. And I know I wanted to be at home, but I've always loved the fashion and the beauty. And it was a way of me still being creative. I have that type A personality. So I'm like, I cannot sit at home.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be doing something. What can I get my hands on? And it was either me spend money or like find a creative outlet to make money in a way. And so that was, you know, kind of just came to me. And I've always had questions like, you know, oh, where'd you get your dress? Or, you know, how did you do this? Or how did you do that?
Yeah.
And, you know, so, you know, going back to, you know, blogs were becoming popular or were popular already at that time, and there were a few bloggers that I admired and loved, and so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna find something to keep myself busy, because I was in the transition of being from working at Lakewood at the time to going home, or dropping to part-time and then being at home full-time, and so thought, you know what, just gonna do it, just gonna take a stab at it. And so I did. And at first it was very like mommy blogger. My pictures were horrible. It was dark. Sometimes I look back at the pictures and I'm like, oh my gosh. But
I cannot imagine that. But okay.
No, they're there. I still keep them. I haven't deleted them because I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? But you know, started from the bottom, now we're here.
Oh, Drizzy, a Drizzy reference.
I always tell myself that, but you know, just took a stab at it, and it went for it. And a friend of mine was like, you know, you really, because even when I first started, it was just pictures of the family at the zoo. It was just, you know, it's just little snapshots here and there. And it wasn't until a friend of mine was like, you know, you need to actually be doing pictures and taking pictures and, you know, putting your outfits together. And so I did that. And then it went from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was the hardest part of that transition? Or was it like, I know you said you had to really get in the nitty gritty, but like, that sounds like a beautiful story to me.
It was not.
Like, what was the hardest part of that journey?
I think figuring it out, because I think, you know, I mentioned it just today on my stories. You know, I know that blogging is somewhat glorified. It's pretty pictures, right? You know, when a brand hires you, they want to display pretty pictures, just like an ad on TV. You don't see an ad on TV and the house is a mess. You know, you're trying to sell something.
Right.
And so I think, you know, in that sense that, you know, blogging can be, you know, it's all pretty pictures and fame and, you know, seems all glorious, but it's really running a business. I have no idea, or had no idea, how to run a business. So things from like SEO and keyword and how to put up a post and, you know, your ALT tags and so on and so forth, and Pinterest and Twitter and Facebook. Right. So really running a business and figuring out the nitty gritty of behind the scenes and coding. I am horrible at coding.
I don't even know what you're talking about. What does that even mean? I don't even know if you can explain that.
WordPress, you've got your WordPress, you've got your plugins and your theme, and there's a lot of coding. I hire out, I outsource on that because I'm like, that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
But it was learning the ins and out because I didn't have anybody, I didn't know anybody. So
Right.
it was just me and Google at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
How to choose the right keywords or how to do this or how to do that. So
You are doing it though. Like, you're my favorite blogger ever.
thank
And
you.
I'm like
Thank
not
you.
hugely into blogs, but you got me into it. Like,
Thank you.
I'm serious. Like, every time you put up a blogger, I go and follow that blogger. And then I go and follow. Because it's like, I trust your blog. And I'm like, well, if she likes the blog, I'm going to follow that blog. Because I didn't know about blogs really until I'm more of a podcast girl. I've always been like, I like to hear it.
Yeah.
But you made me like very interested in the blog world. So
Aw.
you definitely opened me up to that world. So before we like dive head into the topic for tonight, what I know that you were very public in regards to your miscarriage, but before we get into the miscarriage stories, how did you determine like to be so public, even like in the midst of that? Or how do you determine when to be private, when to be public? Like, how do you come to that conclusion?
It's hard. It's hard balancing it because on the end, when you share things, you're quick, or people are quick to criticize, quick to point fingers and say, oh, she did this or oh, she did that. So it's hard. But ultimately, and even like with kids, sharing the kids, and there was a point in time where Jordan and I, well, are we going to share the kids because social media and
People are
pedophiles
crazy,
and
yeah.
People do crazy things. And honestly, it's just going back to reminding myself that I think even though I do talk about the fashion and the beauty and all of that, I think I know that my purpose is much bigger. I know that I didn't get my following. I have a gift, and I know that God has given me that gift and given me the platform to ultimately use it for His glory.
Yeah.
And so I just pray and believe and trust that God will, help me and give me wisdom in how to share and what to share and what not to share. I mean, for the most part, I've shared pretty much anything and everything just because I feel like it's all part of my testimony.
Right.
So if people see how my husband and I interact or how I interact with my kids and, sharing the, the ins and outs of my life, I guess, that even though the good, the bad, and the ugly, that God will ultimately get the glory, and that, I think it's just people seeing the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Just how, people look at celebrities and, they're attracted to the fame and the glory and all of that. But I want people to see Christ in my life. I want people to see Christ in me and the way, I am with my kids or with my husband and my marriage and all that. So just, I guess I've shared everything and anything, but it's just,
Yeah.
just really trusting, hearing from God.
Right. Trusting that God will lead you. I mean, has God ever led you not to share? Or at this point, do you feel like God has put you in a space to share and God will just bless whatever you decide to share?
There has not been a time where I have felt not to share. Actually, I think I felt more compelled to share. There hasn't been a time where I'm like, no, I'm not going to share this.
Yeah.
It's actually just I mean, there's always been a stronger, when you feel the Holy Spirit down in you, just stirring that up. It's been the opposite for me.
Wow. And is Jordan equally on board with that? Or do sometimes you have to convince him of?
No, he's on board. He's
Yeah.
actually, through sharing everything on the blog, sharing more of the marriage and, how, we've been married for 10 years and, how we keep it hot and spicy or
Yeah.
all that, we've actually gotten questions like, how did y'all meet? And, what do you do? And I still have yet to do the blog post just because it's been something that we've been praying about and thinking about, like, how are we going to approach this? Because and it was actually his idea. He's like, maybe we should do some videos, like a video once a month or where, where we open up and, we share more about the marriage and, how the roles in the marriage and et cetera, all that. So he's been on board.
Wow. That's dope. I got to
Yeah.
get my husband on board. He's so shy. I don't know if shy is the right word, but he's super like private.
Is he?
So he's kind of like, what are you going to be talking about on this podcast? And I'm like, it's going to be super honest and raw. I'm not going to be talking just for the sake of talking. But, I feel like you said, and no way do I feel like I'm anything to be looked at. But when people have been married for a period of time, or they have a family, or anything that someone desires to have, it always kind of appears like it's all together. And I just feel like you have to be super honest with people about your journey and what you've been through. So
I think everybody has influence.
Yeah.
Whether you've got a huge following.
Right.
I mean, I think everybody has an influence around them. And I think it's funny, though, because Jordan is actually the extrovert.
Oh.
And I'm not at all. Like, for me to be in a public setting with a lot of people, I'm like, get me out of here.
Really?
I'm like, don't put me in front of people to speak. I'm like, no.
I would never think that.
I totally freak out. Yeah. And he is the complete opposite. Like, give him a microphone and he will be up there for an hour.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I'm like, so So
it works beautifully with you guys. Well, for the purpose of this conversation, I'm going to share my miscarriage story. I don't know for sure if this will get edited out because I want it to be your interview, obviously, but
no, share it.
Jesse has the freedom to snap back, so but I timed it out, and it's not super long, but just so we can have a nice back and forth. So we've been married 10 years also. Ooh. We had our anniversary in September. So when me and Jesse got married, I think both of us were in agreement that we would have 2 kids. We never knew how or when, but we always were like, 2 is a nice number. Anything more than that seemed very extreme. And
are you listening, Jordan? He's like, let's do 5.
Ooh.
I'm like, 5?
I can't even wrap my head around that. Yeah. But some people can, and I think that's beautiful. If you want to be that person.
You getting this look?
Do it for the ones like myself who just can't even process it. But we were fine with 2. We still feel fine with that idea. But so we got pregnant super quick, which I do not encourage. FYI, I advise people to stay married at least 3 to 4 years if you can.
Yeah.
But we got married at our 1-year anniversary celebration. I found out I was pregnant. So Madison was here right before our 2-year anniversary. So she is our world. We adore Madison to the point where we don't need another kid. She's fine. And we really were fine. I got on birth control, and I got the Mirena, and that's a 5-year birth control. Right. So I got the Mirena, and I'm like, well, if I decide to take it out sooner, we could do that. But for now, I'm going to do that. Got the Mirena. 5 years later, I'm still we were both looking at each other I don't know. We still weren't quite ready to even try. So I'm like, I'm going to get another Mirena. But I knew in my mind that I probably wasn't going to keep this one the full 5 years. Mm-hmm. So got the second Mirena. And at that point in our time, in our life, we were kind of in transition. We were living in New York, but we were kind of thinking about relocating. Houston was my home. We were just definitely seeking the spirit in terms of where we were going to be as a family.
And where is he from?
He's from New York. Buffalo, New York. Yep.
Okay.
So that's where we lived for 9 years. That's how we know Rose and all that. That's all our crew from New York. So, cool. That I think that and just still not feeling 100% ready.
Yeah.
We were let's get one more Mirena and see how it goes. So that was right before we moved to Houston. And about 2 years after moving, I started having physical issues with the Mirena at that point. Just feeling it wasn't really safe anymore. And I just I did maybe too much research. I don't know. Because I used to love the Mirena. But then I was like, wait a minute, this don't seem right. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it out. And we had a conversation again, Jesse and I, okay, we need to figure out what's the plan here. Mm-hmm. So we both felt comfortable not being on birth control, not full-fledged trying to have a baby, but just living it out for a little bit.
Having fun.
Seeing what happened. We weren't if we got pregnant, it wouldn't be devastating at that point. Yep. So we're let's just see. So maybe 5 months after that, I started wanting to try to have a baby. And we did that for about 2 months, which to me, that's horrible. I don't ever want to do that again. The tracking and it's super stressful. And I feel it takes the romance away. It just creates something that it's not, to me, it's not supposed to be there. That's not the way that God designed it to be in my eyes. So 2 months of that was just no, I'm not going to do that. We have sex enough for it to happen naturally. It happened naturally with Madison. I just didn't feel the need to keep trying. So that was, and I have all these timelines because I'm I don't know, a weirdo, but that was October. So April is when I found out I was pregnant. Of the following year. So this was October 2017. Now we're in April 2018.
Okay.
When I found out I was pregnant. And my period is like clockwork. So if I'm like a day late, I'm like, I'm pregnant. I know it. And sure enough, it was like a day late on my little Flow app. And I'm like, I'm going to wait till I get home from work to get a pregnancy test. And I like went on my lunch break because I'm like so antsy pants. And I like found out I was pregnant at work in the bathroom. I always find out I'm pregnant at the most craziest locations. Like I found out I was pregnant with Madison at my church bathroom in New York. Like I'm always like very antsy. Like when I feel it, I'm like, I got to go take a test right now. But, found out I was pregnant and we went through all the, getting the appointments, and it was super early. Like if you're a day late pregnant, you're super early, right? Yeah. But I'm like, I'm gonna go ahead and schedule my appointment just to kind of get things lined up, which I don't know, that was probably a mistake as well in retrospect, but went to the doctor.
It's so funny because I like you're saying this and I am the exact same way in everything.
That is so funny. Yeah. I knew we were soul sisters already, but
yes.
So went to the doctor and they were like, the pregnancy test is super faint, so we'll get some blood work done just to make sure that your numbers are like doing what they're supposed to do or whatever. So I get a call. No, I didn't even get a call. I called the next week, and the lady on the phone, like, this isn't even the doctor. This is like whoever picks up the phone is like, oh, your numbers went down. I think you're having a miscarriage.
What?
Like over the phone. I don't know who this person is. This is like the receptionist.
Oh my gosh.
At this point. And so I'm like, what? Like, this seems so unprofessional. Like, are you sure?
Can I talk to my doctor, please?
And she's like, yep, you're having a miscarriage. Like, she's telling me definitively, like, I'm having a miscarriage. And I'm just like, first I'm kind of like really hurt. And then I'm like, I told Jesse, I'm like, I don't know. I don't believe that. Like, I'm not going to believe that in this moment in time. Yeah. Like, until I know for sure, I'm going to believe God that we're going to have a baby, like, period. So between like, it was about 3 to 4 weeks of like very back and forth, like watching my numbers, because then my numbers like shot up, but still not like doubling every day, but like a huge shoot up. So then the same receptionist is like, oh, this is a great sign. Like your numbers shot up. And I'm like, first of all, I'm done with you in this whole facility. Cause like the doctor was a male, and I don't know. I never had a problem with the male OBGYN, but now I kind of have a different opinion, because he was kind of like, if this is your first like, you should be grateful this is your first miscarriage almost. And I just feel like that's not good verbiage to hear, like during like the possibility of a miscarriage. No. Like I know it's very common. I know like it happens, but like that's not what I want to hear in this moment. Yeah. So like X that whole doctor's office out, found a new doctor's office, and like,
and this is while you're going through the miscarriage.
This is while I'm going through and still never having like any proof that I was having a miscarriage, which was like super like frustrating, because my numbers were still going up, but not like they needed to. Yeah. And they were saying, well, have you been spotting? Have you been cramping? I'm like, no, I haven't had any of that. So finally, like, I went to a new doctor's office with all women, and super amazing. This is still my doctor's office now. But finally, they're like, at this point, I'm 10 weeks pregnant, but I hadn't progressed past like 6 weeks. They're like, it's no way. Like, we need to go ahead and take the next steps. Yeah. So at that point in time, we did accept that that's what's happening. You're having a miscarriage. So then they give you the opportunity to either do a DNC, or I chose to do like it's supposed to be more of a natural way where they insert the pills. Oh. It's like, which I'm very into, like, there's like hand motions and sounds going on. But I don't know why DNCs scare me, but they do. I don't know why. I don't know if I would choose. Well, it is
like a major surgery.
It's a major surgery. Yeah. And I was just, when they gave me the option to do something a little more natural, I was like, well, I'm going to try it out. I don't know that I would advise this to anyone else in looking back, because literally, like, I bled for like almost 7 weeks straight. And to the point where, like, I thought I was going to need a blood transfusion.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I lost so much blood.
Is that normal?
They say it's possible. They say it can happen that way.
And they didn't, of course, they didn't tell you when they gave you.
Of course not. Like, it's like, it could either be like very, very simple, or it could be like me, and you think you could possibly. And like, I wasn't weak or anything, but it was just like, to have to be bleeding for so long. Yeah. And like, I process things very quickly. So like, I cried, I like wrestled with God. I did all the things within like the first week of all this, but I still had to physically play this out. Yeah. Over like a 6 to 7 week period. So
basically dragged it out.
Dragged it out. And come to find out, like, the first round didn't take. So I don't know if I think in a normal setting, it would have been quicker. But the first round, I needed 2 rounds. I ended up having to have 2 rounds of the insertion.
Oh, wow.
Because it was like a little bit of tissue left. So okay, like 6 weeks later, I'm finally like completely done with it. So that was like in June that I was completely done with everything. So now this is like December. I'm finally feeling like if I was to get pregnant, I think I would be okay. Like with the idea, like before it was still kind of like very, very like, although I wasn't fearful or like I don't live in fear, it's still just like the idea of going right back into that was kind of like a little bit of trepidatious. So that is my story in a nutshell, but very, very hopeful. Like people were concerned with how hopeful I was to a point, you know what I mean? But I just choose to like, I know you can choose to live in a space of like, well, if it doesn't happen, I'm grateful, which I'm always grateful. But I just choose to live in a space of like, I'm going to have another baby. Yeah. And it's just a matter of when. Yep. So that's where we are. Me and Jesse do it all the time. And, you know, whenever it happens, it'll happen.
Do you listen to Andy Mineo?
Yes.
There is his new song. Jaden and Colin love it. Coming in Hot.
I don't know that word.
It's their new one. It's like coming in hot. Anyways, and he goes, I need y'all to quit asking me when me and my wife are gonna have some kids. Right now, we just practicing. Woo!
That's what we always say.
I'm like, oh, it is so funny.
That's our favorite line. So you know, it'll happen when it happens. But so you've actually had 2 miscarriages, and I love that. So in my situation and listening to you, how you talk about when you went through your first miscarriage, but then you held Liam in your arms and how amazing that was and how it kind of almost took away what you went through prior to that. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about your first miscarriage and then leading into having Liam?
I'm going to try not to cry here. Yeah, so I had 2. I had one before. Do we need a...
We're good. Yeah.
I had two miscarriages. I had to have 2 surgeries, 2 D&Cs. I had one before Liam, and Liam's now 17 months. Yes. And that was a first. Somewhat the same. My period was always regular on the clock. Same day. And if my period was late, I was pregnant. Yeah. Took a pregnancy test, came out positive. And went to the doctor probably around, my doctor normally waits between 6 and 8 weeks, so it's probably around 7 weeks. We went, didn't find anything. And this is still the first time that this was all, so this was back in 2016? 2016, yeah. Funny enough, I got pregnant. So Jaden and Colin, my 2 older ones, their birthdays are January 11th, and then Colin was born the next year, January 1.
Oh my goodness.
This pregnancy, I was due January 2nd. Oh. And I'm like, I'm going to have 3 January babies. I know. I'm like, what in the world? But so yeah, went to the doctor's appointment. Between, that 7 week, there was nothing there. So the doctor was like, oh, maybe it's too early. Drew some blood work, went back the next week, still nothing there. More blood work, and same thing. Hormones were going up, but not doubling like they expected. Yeah. And so she wanted to wait 3 weeks just to really make sure. And that was 3 very long weeks. Right. That was 3 weeks that, it rocks your world. Mm-hmm. It flips everything upside down. I remember there's just, I look back and there are moments that I just try to just completely just not remember. Yeah. But I vividly remember just, Jordan and I in the living room just on our knees, just praying and worshiping and pleading and God, do something. Mm-hmm. And I remember there was one point also remember in bed and I'm just in the child's position and I'm just bawling and Jordan is just holding me because I'm like, why? So the 3rd week comes by, still nothing there. And then it was at the point where the doctor gave me the decision. She's like, we can have a D&C, or we can let your body just naturally just, have a miscarriage, or you can take the medicine. At that point, with 3 weeks of just drawing it out with blood work, I'm like, you know what? I'm ready to move on. Next chapter. Let's close this. So I had the D&C, and it was rough. After it was rough, it took me 4 months to get pregnant after the first D&C, and then, got pregnant with Liam. And you look back and it's almost as if I lived in some sort of, I had to get a Doppler for the home to listen to Liam's heartbeat, because I needed to know that he was okay. And even Jordan's like, you're going crazy. And I'm like, no, it robs you, a miscarriage robs you in a way that it's almost as if, like, even now after having Liam and even going through my second one, it's almost as if, like, I'm happy, and I have, obviously, the joy of the Lord is my strength, but it does something to you that I don't think, it's hard to explain, and it's not unless you've gone through it that you understand, but I lived my pregnancy with paranoia almost every doctor's appointment with Liam. Like, oh my gosh, is he okay? Like, is there a heartbeat? Is he okay? Can we do another ultrasound just to make sure? So went through, with Liam and everything, had Liam, and obviously, and Liam has been the definition of a rainbow baby for me. Yeah. He has healed me in a way that, I can't really explain, and I don't have the words, but, going through that and then having Liam, there's been, I can't imagine life without him. Right. And so we knew we wanted 4. We agreed on 4. 3, it was 3 at first. And we're like, no, let's go for the 4th. Maybe a girl. We do want a girl. Yeah. Jordan, more so Jordan than me. But, I'm fine with being a boy mom as well. But then, we started trying again. Or if it were up to Jordan, I think he would want, like, Liam and the 4th baby back to back. And I'm like, no, like, give me it. Like, I need time. A bit of time, yeah. I'm like, can I have my body back, please? Yeah. And so we waited a little bit, and I was off the pill for a few months. And then I got pregnant. And so what was interesting was that, this was the month, it was October, it was the month that we had really been just praying and reading together. We were really having our quiet time, like, every day. It was just something that we were believing and praying for, just some bold things. And one of them was a baby girl. Jordan's got some stuff at work that's going on. And, we were just kind of just believing and praying and fasting. And so that was the month that I ovulated late. And again, my body's like clockwork. So I remember thinking, like, oh, this is weird. Like, I don't normally ovulate this
How did
late.
you know you ovulated late? You track?
I don't track. I just know my body.
That I have not mastered. You got to teach me that.
Well, we can do that all.
Okay, on the side.
Yeah. Right. And then again, hormones, like my sex drive. Like I've learned to be in tune with my body. And so I remember thinking, like, oh, this is really late. Anyways, I'm like, oh, whatever. So I remember my period was supposed to be due on a Monday. Monday comes and goes, nothing. So it was like Monday night, and I'm like, oh, we'll take a pregnancy test just to make sure, because I'm like, my period should be here by now. And Monday comes, I take a pregnancy test, and it comes back negative. So then Wednesday, 2 days after my missed period, comes back negative again. I take another pregnancy test, and I'm like, what in the world? I'm like, I'm not the one to just miss a period. Right. I'm like, what is going on? So in my mind, I'm like thinking, oh, well, maybe because I ovulated late, then, my period's going to come late. So Friday, so this is now 5 days after my missed period. And I'm like, you know what, midday, I'm like in the middle of cleaning that house. I'm like, I'm just going to take another pregnancy test. It comes out positive. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So, we're excited. I did a little, like, surprise, because I'm thinking, I'm like, I want to do something different. I just don't want, because the last pregnancy, it's always either Jordan was with me while I took it, or, like, he'd come home and, like, the first thing I blurt out, I'm like, I'm pregnant, I'm like, I wanted to do something different. And, I even have the video, and, I go back and forth. I'm like, do I want to keep the video? Do I really want to remember that? And, like, I didn't even have time to, like, go get Liam a shirt. So I took a Sharpie, and I wrote Big Bro, and I gave him the pregnancy test. And Jordan was on the phone, and he goes up to Jordan, and he's, like, holding the pregnancy test and putting it in his mouth, and I'm like, Liam, get that out of your mouth! And so, like, it takes Jordan a while for it, like, he's, like, reading it, and he's like, wait, what? And he's like, I think he thought it was a pen at first or whatever, anyway. So, we're excited. I'm the type where I announce everything super early. So I think I found out on Friday, and it was like that Sunday, I'm like, let's announce it. And then also because I feel like I share so much also on Instagram, I didn't want to like keep that for 2 or 3 weeks.
Right. That would have been hard.
I'm not like that. Again, I'm open about everything. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to share. So I shared. We're all excited. And then comes the night before the first ultrasound, the first appointment, right? And I remember going on stories and I'm like crying because I've just deep down, there's this fear, I'm like, oh my gosh, like what if I don't want to go through this again? Like, you know? And so went to the doctor's appointment and sure enough, there's nothing there. And so, you know, she's like, oh, we should see something by now. And then, you know, I told her that, well, I did ovulate late. Maybe, you know, it's late. She's like, yeah, but maybe it's just late. So did some blood work, and then I went back in 48 hours, did blood work again. Same thing. The hormones are supposed to double, and they went up about, I think it was like, instead of it doubling, it went up like 20% or 25%.
Okay.
And so, but then one of the hormone levels, I don't remember, it was high, and she's like, you know, that's a good sign. So, you know, it was just that time frame of that week. So we did a same thing, like 3 weeks of ultrasound every week.
Yeah.
And it was in that first week, it was just like, oh my gosh, it's just like a flashback of everything that had happened before. And there was just something deep down in my heart that I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not going to let myself go there.
Yeah.
I don't want to go there. And then there was this I feel like the Holy Spirit was just really speaking deep down, like, don't let the enemy steal your joy.
Yeah.
And that was just the one thing, the word joy, I was the one word that I kept going back to. And even reading and praying, it was just, there were stories that I was reading throughout the Bible and just the joy of the Lord. And, you know, that was the one thing that I was kept going back to. And I refused to. I'm like, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to let my mind go there. I have so much to be thankful for. I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
You know, we're all healthy. There's so much to be thankful for that I'm not going to let the enemy steal my joy in this.
Right.
And so that was the one thing that just kept coming back to me. Just the joy of the Lord is your strength. The joy of the Lord is your strength. And so, you know, we went in for the second appointment a week later. So at this time, the first appointment, there was a sac, but there was no yolk.
Okay.
And so the second appointment, there was a sac and a yolk, and they saw something. But at that point, the doctor was like, you know, you're really small, you're very, very petite. We should be able to see something. Yeah. And so I'm like, well, there's progression, though, from the week before, because the week before we didn't see anything at all.
Right.
You know, now there's a sac and a yolk. I'm like, so maybe, you know, I'm obviously trying to, you know, because the entire time Jordan and I, we were praying and just, you know, just really believing that, you know, the same God that healed back then and, you know, throughout the Bible, the stories in the Bible that healed and, you know, caused the blind man to see. We were believing, we know that he is the same God who was and will forever be.
That's right.
And so we were believing and just praying, God, that you will do the supernatural, that you can do the supernatural. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I'm trying to find hope and faith in any little thing. And I'm like, but, you know, there's progress. And she's like, well, there is. And so, you know, we're talking to the doctor and she's like, you know, and I asked her, I'm like, well, next week, if we come and we see something, you know, then like, that's a good thing, right? And, you know, doctors are very, like, they don't want to give you any hope. So much hope, right? Yeah, you know, liability issues, I get that. And so she's like, you know, well, we can. There's a possibility. She's like, you know, chances are that there's not going to be. And she says, and if there is a fetal poll next week, she said, then you have she's like, then that's when I would encourage you to start doing genetic testing. Okay. She says, because if you're developing and if you're like moving this slow, then there could be issues. And so then it's at the point it's like, okay, well, you know, we believe that God can either bring back to life or bring to life. Yeah. So, you know, we're praying and believing, and just Jordan went on a fast. I didn't, obviously pregnant. I didn't do that. I fasted through like social media and some other stuff, and he went through fast, no eating and nothing but water for 4 days, and we were just really praying and believing that God do the supernatural. And it's funny because the first time that I did that I went through the miscarriage, the second time around, when God was praying right before they captured him, he went up there and he prayed 3 times. Not you. He prayed, take this cup. Take this cup from me, but not my will, your will.
Right.
And it was one of the things that I prayed with the first miscarriage, and then I prayed also in the second miscarriage. And I'm like, I don't want this to happen. Yeah. But ultimately, your will. It's your will. Yeah. Because I think about obviously I have Liam now, and so having Liam and not, I can't imagine life without Liam. Yeah. And the joy that he's brought to the family, and how the little personality and his joy, and how he, how much love and joy that he's brought to the family. Knowing that God has, that his plan is sovereign, that he's sovereign, that his will is sovereign, and knowing that his plans in Jeremiah 29:11, his plans for me, he's got great plans for me, but not only for me, but for my kids. Yeah. So reminding myself that, obviously this isn't a surprise, that he knew this was going to happen. Yeah. And that just as my days are numbered, so are my kids. Right. And also reminding myself that, hey, obviously you wouldn't want this to happen, and obviously you would want a baby now, but thinking about the bigger picture and thinking about long term, thinking about that, that my kids' days are numbered, that they have a plan, that they have a purpose, and that, God knows, he knows everything. He's knitting them in my womb. And so to think about the month that they are born in, the day that they are born in. He knows even that. Yeah. That matters. Mm-hmm. That the smallest of the details matters. And so almost replacing taking myself out of the situation and in a way thinking kingdom mindset, or thinking about thinking bigger picture. Right. And that's really what I had to do. I had to take myself, or remove myself almost from the situation, and think about just the bigger picture, think about, long term, and think about that, this isn't a surprise to God, and holding on to that hope, and holding on to, that song, that and the Hillsong song that, even when it hurts, I'll praise you. Yeah. Singing, worship is huge to me. So, that's the kind of stuff that got me through, but just reminding myself that, God is in control, always will be, and that, I would much, much rather have his will and his way than mine. Right,
exactly. That's so good. You're preaching over here, Elly. That is so good, though. That's where I am, too. And I have my moments, every day I have to, speak that over my life. Yeah. Because I had a rough last month, just I got my period, and it was so crazy. It showed me how quick you can go to a negative place if you give into a thought, if you let yourself. Because I never, literally every month when my period comes, I'm well, I got another month to lose 20 pounds. Normally that's always my outlook. Seriously, I'm always super positive and just always trying to find the best. And that's honestly how I feel. You know what I mean? I'm not out here oh my God, when is it going to happen? Because I really trust God's timing. I really do. But I just had a bad day. Got my period, and I was devastated, and I gave into it, and then I trickled down to a 4-day spiral. Yeah. And so every single day, the enemy, that's something the enemy can use against me, right? So every day I have to make sure I'm speaking life over myself, over my family, over my womb, and everything else, because it's just so easy to go there. Oh yeah. Especially when you have all these things around you and whatever. But I'm super grateful, like you said, for your family. And I just have my little one, but I love her so much. Yeah. I'm so grateful. I'm some people don't have any children and they deal with this. You know what I mean? But I have one daughter, and I feel so blessed to have that daughter. I do want to talk a little bit about husbands, because I learned during my miscarriage to kind of think about it in a bit of a different way. I think I went into it almost selfishly, thinking that it was something that I was going through by myself. Mm-hmm. And not that my husband wasn't with me going through it, but that I didn't acknowledge how he felt going through it. And so, he had a hard time with it, and he processes things so different. Yeah. So he wasn't able to communicate that as much as I can communicate it, or I could just literally bust out crying, or you know what I mean? And what's happening, right? Yep. But for him, I think he really internalized it. And I had to acknowledge that because there was a point in time where I was better, like I really was, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
But it was like I was like, but I need him to be better with me.
Yeah.
Instead of saying like, let me support him to get better.
Yep.
Because I'm like, no, I'm the one dealing with this, so he need to come on board with me.
Yeah.
And how did your husband? How did you guys walk that together? How was his take on it?
I gotta say, I am extremely blessed. Jordan is a great leader. I think the first time around, I think he was the one who really carried me and was like, he was more of the rock for me at that time. Mm-hmm. The second time around, I think the roles were flipped. I think because he was, again, he's so set on having a baby girl, which I understand.
Yeah.
That I think it broke his heart a little bit more than it did mine. So I think this time around it was more of a, for me, it was like, I think he was almost expecting for me to go to that place where I went the first time.
Yeah.
But again, and it was one of those things where I didn't want to let myself go there. The Bible talks about guarding your mind so many times. And I don't know. So guarding my mind, and this time around, it's almost as if the roles were reversed.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was expecting for me to be in the bad, and it wasn't like in a bad shape the first time, but obviously it takes an emotional toll on you.
Yeah.
I think even in all areas. But the second time around, it almost as if like I had to remind him several times, like, hey, no, like we're okay. Mm-hmm. We have so much to be grateful for. Our boys are like, when we've, your words have power. You speak life or death, or life or death is in the power of your tongue. And so we've spoken so much over the boys, even as far as to looking at the meaning of their names. And so we were really careful with all of that. And so the boys, all of them have so much joy and life. Like literally, they say hi to anybody and everybody.
They are so sweet. I love your
Yeah,
boys.
they are. And like they will go up to anybody and they're like, "Look at my cross necklace and Jesus died for me." And they're so outspoken about all of that. And so it's like I had to remind them. I'm like, "Hey, God has blessed us with so much."
Yeah.
And that when his time, like, because so Jordan's a lot more like into like details, and he's like thinking, man, if you were really pregnant this month, and then so this next baby would be only 2 years younger than Liam, and so like he's thinking about like further down in high school, and then like all being
like
in high school
perfectly timed
together,
out,
and I'm like, listen, no, we can't, like, I don't want my will, I don't want my plan. I'm like, because it's when I take a hold of the steering wheel is when things get all jacked up.
Right.
Everything's get out of control. I'm like, no. I'm like, again, it was me reminding him, like, hey, God's got a plan. He's got a purpose.
Right.
And then, again, reminding him that, whenever it is that this fourth baby will come, it's going to be, the baby that God has designed for us and planned for us.
Right.
Whether if it is a boy or a girl, just knowing that, again, thinking bigger picture, thinking and, having, thinking like God, obviously not being God, but thinking
in that mindset.
Yeah,
though. That's
thinking
what
in that
he wants
mindset.
us to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Thinking bigger picture and reminding him that, hey, God's got it. He's got it. He knows what he's doing.
Yes.
But Jordan's not a very emotional guy. So, yeah.
He was good.
He was good.
Yeah.
I mean, and he is good. I think, again, if it were up to him, he would have already had the fourth baby.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously you feel like you're in a good space mentally to prepare for baby number 4.
Yes.
What would you say to somebody who's not in that space yet, who is still living in that fear that you were kind of living in before Liam or during that process?
Get on your knees.
Yeah.
I think, again, the Bible talks about guarding your mind. And were you at the movies a couple of weeks ago?
Which one?
The movies.
The
One,
tsunami?
no. Oh man, that one.
Don't
Ooh,
even get
the
me
entire
started.
time I was
Ooh,
like,
a mess.
every time we've gone to at the movies, we've always wanted to watch like all the movies.
Yeah.
This one, I'm like, nope.
I thought I couldn't watch that one
I'm
either.
like, nope, I'm not watching this one. I'm like, I am not going home. I'm not doing that to myself again. No, but it was the one before, with the one with Tom Hanks.
I missed that one.
So it really spoke to what we were going through, but
Yeah.
it was a good reminder. the enemy comes to do three things: steal, kill, and destroy.
Yep.
And I think he'll do that with your mind. And if, you let your mind go there, what we were talking about completely.
Just encouraging women who aren't in that
who
space
are in
yet.
there. Okay. So he comes to do three things: steal, kill, and destroy. And if you let your mind go there, I think it affects everything else.
Yeah.
It sinks into your heart, to your soul. I think if you let yourself go there,
Yeah.
and I think it's okay to go through the emotions. I think it's okay to be hurt, and I think it's okay. I think you need to bring that at the cross.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, the emotion that you're going through at the time, I think bring that at the cross.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's nothing that God doesn't know or doesn't like what you feel, He feels.
Yeah.
So my suggestion is do exactly what the Bible does. Put on the armor of God. Get on your knees and pray. Worship. For me, again, worshiping is huge for me.
Yeah.
So even though I may not have the words to say, I can say it through worship. I can release it through worship. So and obviously worshiping is a part of surrendering. But I think arming yourself with the Word of God, reading and praying, and again, repeating those words, His promises, to yourself. If you have to write it out in the mirror, Jeremiah 29:11, that His plans and His hopes for you are great and big things. That He who began a good work in me is faithful to complete it. Those are things that I had to do. That I had to print out scripture or write it out or set reminders on my phone to where throughout the day where I, something would pop up and it would remind me like, hey, and then again, just not letting your mind go there.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay to go through the emotions. But my biggest suggestion is to get on your knees and pray.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, I feel like this was great conversation.
Yeah.
I hope this helps people. I think it will. It helped me. You helped me. For sure.